up, guys, and welcome back to Honest Christian Girl Podcast. I'm Chloe Mack, and today I'm here with my one and only husband, Derek Mack.
The Honest Christian Man.
He's the Honest Christian Man. Today's been long awaited. Many of you have asked lots of burning questions in our DMs. Some of you even would like us to matchmake you. We're going to answer your questions today.
Which we won't do.
We won't do because we don't
want to ruin your life potentially.
Anyhow, we're going to answer your questions today, so buckle up and let's get into it. A lot of you have been following us on social media and you ask a lot of questions, but the most burning question is, how the heck did we meet? How did we come together? And I just want to give a disclaimer. We are 8 years married. We didn't start out like we are now. Like how we were when we met each other was just baby versions of ourselves with immaturity and all sorts of stuff. But I think you need to hear how we met.
I had seen a photo of Chloe on Instagram, showed this photo to my friend and said, I would marry that girl. Fast forward 6 months later, I walk into the house I'm going to be living in Southern California as I moved here. She's the first person I meet. We say hi. It's her birthday. I didn't know that.
It's a birthday present from God.
About 2 months later, we were at a gathering together, and I started to put moves on her. I sat next to her, gave her some looks, gave her some suave moves. And then we started dating like a month later.
Okay, but here's the thing. Here's the thing that made Derek different than everybody in my life. Every man, every boy prior to him.
Whoa.
Was when we had sat together that night, we had a little small talk, nothing too dramatic. It was a great night. And then afterwards, all he did was walk up to me and say, hey, do you want to hang out sometime? And it was kind of like, you want to hang out sometime? Not like, I don't know. It was serious. And in that moment, I had never had a guy just straightforwardly ask me, like, let's hang out and get to know each other. And you better believe this gathering was at my house. I literally, afterwards, I played it cool. I was like, yes, that'd be great. I bolt up the stairs. I tell my mom, this guy was so straightforward. I've never seen that. So attractive. I was talking to another guy at the time. I completely ghosted him. And then I waited for Derek to follow up on that. And he never did. 2 weeks gone by, and Derek was being slow on the hangout. And so this is kind of where things
Her dad led the ministry, okay? I was like, this is a tough decision. I didn't know what the repercussions were for trying to pursue his daughter, so.
And he was just visiting. He didn't live in California. So
only 3 months I was supposed to be here.
Exactly. So anyhow, this is where things get a little controversial and where some of you ladies will be encouraged. I was falling deep in love with Derek, although I had not talked to him, okay? I was losing weight because my bowels were upset over this man. And I was telling my brother, telling everybody, like, we need to do everything we can. This is my man. So we had a little outreach where we were going door to door, evangelizing, inviting people to an outreach event we were doing. And so I went to our leadership and I said, hey, this guy, Derek, asked me to hang out. He's not followed up. Would you just pair us together for this outreach time? So we can just walk and talk and have a little chat. And, so I kind of did a little like, Ruth, I was available. I put myself out there. I had a great outfit that day. I was smiling. And then that's where we really hit it off and started hanging out.
2 days in a row, we hung out. For the outreach, afterwards, we went crazy, and then we went on a fake first date and then a real first date.
And I just remember literally thinking when I was hanging out with him that night, like, I never want this night to end, which I had never felt with any guy before. It was like, wonderful. So, okay, speak to this though. I did make myself a little available, which is something that before that moment, I would have given a lot of speeches on, it's the man, he's pursuing you 100%. But I did give a little nudge. I was like, hey, sister, I'm here.
Yeah.
Is that wrong?
No. God has given us nature to study and understand certain things.
What?
There are certain birds, like peacocks, that will flash their feathers to get the attention of the opposite sex, the opposite gender bird, male, female. And sometimes you have to, as a woman, show off or put yourself out there so that a guy, and I'm telling you this, some guys are clueless. They are totally ready, but they are just absolutely clueless and they're in their own world. And so if you start to maybe flash your feathers. I'm not talking about wearing some crazy outfit. I'm just talking about being available and interested and wanting to engage this young man, and he starts to pick up on that. That's what I'm talking about. And so that is 100% necessary at times, especially in this generation with young guys who sometimes don't even know their left hand from their right hand.
Okay, the fact that you just use the whole birds, that's fine, because that's actually accurate, although it's a little planet Earth. We should put a planet Earth clip here.
Please.
There's a worldly way of doing that, though, I think, and there's a godly way. Yes.
That's why I said it has nothing to do with wearing a certain outfit.
Well, let's compare the two, because I think the worldly way is a woman to sexually, almost powerfully allure a man. And maybe I'm saying that too frankly, but putting it all out there, hey, I am here, you want me. But then there's a godly way of doing that.
Yes.
And I think that's by showing your godly character, your godly traits.
Yes.
I think of Esther preparing herself, and it says twice in the story that she won the favor of all those around her, which makes me think she didn't sit in her room thinking, this is God's promise over my life, it's just going to come about. She kind of won the favor. I'm thinking she had godly traits and was really loving and nice.
Ruth is the perfect example where Naomi tells her to go to Boaz. Boaz has to make all the moves. He has to make the decision. He has to bring the relationship into reality. But Ruth, if she would have never showed up to be with Boaz, then the relationship would have never occurred. So you for sure have to put yourself out there and allow other guys to see you and want to engage with you.
Yeah, which was the kind of pattern in my life. My mom did that with my dad.
Yes.
They were at a barn dance, and my mom was the door greeter. And as my dad was leaving the dance, she said, hey, you want to dance? And
I did not know that.
You didn't?
Did not know that.
And he was growing a mustache. He had a little caterpillar mustache. And then my mom said, do you want to come to church with me tomorrow? And they went to church, and my dad fell in love. It was crazy.
It's fire.
It is fire. So it was a little generational blessing, I think, inside of me. But I think there's also, though, what's the difference between being available and just looking eager or thirsty, or you're crossing a line?
Everything in this generation involves social media, involves technology. The way Chloe and I interacted with each other was almost exclusively through verbal, in-person communication. And so that's the only way you're really going to be able to put yourself out there. If you're always texting or trying to get him to see that you're interested via text or DMing, not going to work. Kind of weird.
If the girl's manipulating and trying to make the situation happen, that's where you cross the line, because it's really in God's hands.
That doesn't mean, though, you can't have friends that set up a certain scenario and situation.
That's godly community right there. We're living in a time we need this. Before we dated, our mentalities were very similar about dating, the way we viewed it.
Yes.
Right?
Dating is not for fun. Dating is for a purpose. Could I come to the place where I enjoy and love this person so much that I'd want to lay down my life for them in marriage? That's kind of the question you're trying to answer. And how I answered that, and my mentality going into it, was she needed to check these two main boxes. Of course, I had peripheral things like what did she look like, and what did she act like, and what's her personality, and what's her interest. But the main thing was, how hungry is she for Jesus? How much does she love him? And is she running in the same direction as me? Those things will last her lifetime. The other things will fade and change. So you can't have things that are going to fade and change be your priority. When that person fades and change, when those things change, then your interest in the person might change. Rather, if you flip it around and it's the things that are going to be eternal, long-lasting, that's what I was looking for in relationship.
Yeah.
And as she checked those boxes, it only made me love her more. And it only made me go, I'm ready to marry this lady.
Yeah, I think your greatest desires in life are really important to measure when you're going after somebody. Because my greatest desire in life was to, and is to, be on fire for Jesus till I die.
That's a perfect way of saying it. Do your desires match their desires? Same things, right? Your desire, I want to live for Jesus my whole life. That's their desire. Then that box is probably the number one thing to check.
Yeah. So for me, is I want to be on fire for Jesus till I die. Number one. Number two, I want to live an adventurous life that looks like the gospel. So for me, I want to do ministry. I want to live a life of missions. two most important things. And if that meant that we were not going to be financially, living the high life, that's great. I would rather not have that and live an adventurous life. So when it came to looking for somebody, it was, do they make me feel more on fire for Jesus? Which was the first thing I noticed about hanging out with Derek, was I had such respect for how much fire he had for the Lord that I literally was like faking it, I felt like. And I would have considered myself at the time like really in love, like going after God. But when I sat down with Derek Mack, like I was like, I need to turn up the heat. And I would literally leave hanging out from him. Like, I need to go read a book. Like that book he mentioned, I'm reading it tonight. Like seriously, I literally did that. Just turned up my whole game in the Lord, and that actually doesn't go away. Like what you experience in dating is only amplified in marriage.
Yeah, 100%.
And so Derek's fire for Jesus in dating has only continued to lead me deeper into Jesus now.
And ladies, because most of you watching this are ladies,
Ladies,
if you come across a guy and you are interested in him, and then he does not have that attribute of fire and hunger for Jesus, it's only superficial. It's only in gatherings once a week that you see it. But outside of that, it doesn't seem like he's that on fire, that interested, doesn't read his word, doesn't have a dedication or devotion that you can visibly see. Then you either need to take a break from him and say, this is why I'm taking a break, because you need this in your life and I can't follow this. Or it just needs to be done.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah. Especially as a woman, call me a trad wife, but I'm just a Bible wife, is the woman is supposed to be led by the man. And the man is the gatekeeper for your home and your family. And that doesn't, that's a whole nother podcast of all the practicals of submission and all that stuff. It's a joy, period.
And by the way, Charles Spurgeon says, famous preacher, says women are supposed to be the neck and the body, men are supposed to be the head. But if you are a wise neck, ladies, then you can turn the head.
You can turn the head, period. But as a woman, and I found this a lot before I had met Derek and other guys that I had been hanging out with or interested in, is I would find myself being the one leading out in the relationship with Jesus or in conversation about God. And they would be getting inspired by me. And I would leave those times really like I'm discipling the guy that I want to be with, which is never a good idea. And especially for somebody who has a strong personality like me, or maybe some of you, was I didn't want to start wearing the pants for the rest of my life. Like I needed somebody that was going to wear the pants and lead out so I could be completely in my God-given design. So if you are discipling your boyfriend, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Straight to jail.
You don't want to be their mom.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. And there's areas Derek and I both really needed to grow in when we were dating. But for me to step in as a mentor to him is just so unhealthy. And that's why you have mentorship and covering. I think this is so important. You need to have covering when you are dating and even in marriage where people are speaking into you individually. So you're not always helping each other grow. You're iron sharpening iron, not like sit down, I have a lesson to teach you. That's why you have to have people speaking into what your growth.
A great test to see if a man's ready and he's really hungry for Jesus is, does he pursue other godly men?
Yeah.
And allow them to speak into his life, and he receives it, not with tension or, oh, I don't really know if I like that, but with joyful submission, like, I can't wait to change. He doesn't need to be the perfect guy. He doesn't need to be perfectly holy and righteous at the beginning of your relationship. He'll never actually be that. But what you do need to see is the foundation in his life of humility, teachability, hunger, fire for Jesus. And it displays itself through prayer and reading the word and evangelism and fellowshipping with believers.
Okay, next, I think marriage sometimes is looked at through social media, dreamy Disneyland lens. And I don't want to talk about how marriage is not fun or it's death. I more want to talk about what is marriage. Like,
This
is it Pookie and Jet saying that their fits are absolutely fire, or
Yes.
is it more than that?
This is so important because this generation really struggles with narcissism, selfishness, And I think people view marriage through the lens of how can someone else complete me? How can someone else bring something into my life that brings me more joy, more satisfaction, more happiness? And that is a recipe for disaster. The only reason you should want to get married is because you have seen someone that you love and treasure and cherish so much that you would say in your mind, in your heart, I can't wait to lay down my life for them. I can't wait to serve them. I can't wait to, selflessly give myself to them. That's what you should be thinking through. And you see that in the way Paul describes to the Ephesian church how husbands should treat their wives is, husbands, love your wives like Christ loves the church. That's an unbelievably radical statement. We skip over that and go, oh, that's cool. I'm supposed to just generically love my wife. No, it's as Christ loves his church. That sets a precedence for marriage that is so beyond what anything the world has to offer. You even see it in the way that God designed Adam and Eve together. Adam's lonely, which was prior to the fall. Just so you know, there is a loneliness that God has placed inside us that draws us to connection with other people. And the main way he's designed you to have connection that fulfills that longing for companionship is through marriage. And so God makes Eve, they come together, they're one flesh. And God says that Eve was Eve's going to be Adam's helper or helpmate, which is the exact same word that other writers of the Old Testament describe God as Israel's help. And so this is a huge statement that she's going to fulfill this role in this place in their union. And so you should want to get married if you want to lay down your life for someone, and if you want to form a team bond, a partnership where you guys are running after a mission together and you're seeking to do that in the same terms.
Yeah, marriage, in my opinion, what you're saying, has to be bigger than yourself.
Yes.
That's a narcissistic view.
Yes.
We're going, this is going to complete us looking at ourselves. You have to have a mission greater than yourself. You're both running after. It brings so much life. So for 8 years of our marriage, we have done missions in ministry nonstop. From
Chloe and I have probably traveled like 15, somewhere around maybe 20 countries together, prayed so much together, preached so much together.
Slept on floors.
We literally one time folded our clothes in our suitcase because we didn't have a bed to sleep in, and we were in a house that had no furniture, concrete floors. We made a bed out of our clothes and slept. It's hilarious.
Oh, it was amazing. It was amazing.
And I look at that experience and I go, that is so fun.
That is
in the
so
moment,
fun.
It was kind of wild, but looking back on it, I go, this is epic.
Yeah, the marriage should be an adventure chasing Jesus together.
Yes.
Simple obedience, marching towards wild things that stretch your faith. It's got to be teamwork that changes the world.
Yes.
And that can look different than us doing ministry. It could look for a couple living
in any setting.
Yeah, living the gospel in their house, making community.
In your neighborhood, in your church setting, whatever it might be. But what we're saying applies for everybody.
And this is something we talked about a lot when we were dating. I remember I wanted Derek to know the depth of how serious I was about living a life that looked like the Gospels. And I remember literally like pulling out prophetic words that had been given to me or things, promises I had felt from the Lord, and boldly sharing those when we were getting to know each other. Like, this is my future. This is where I'm going.
And likewise for me, I would look at her and I'd go, hey, this is the direction I'm going. If you're not going in that direction, like, you can get off the bus if you want to.
Oh, seriously. Like, he had even asked me, like, was I willing to be martyred? Would I move to the Middle East?
Yeah, that was crazy. So prior to me asking her to be my girlfriend, I asked her 3 questions. I can't remember the last one, but the first one was, are you willing to move to the Middle East? And the second one was, are you willing to be a martyr? I was crazy. But she said yes to both of those things, and I was like, this girl's amazing.
So then even having a family or kids or that perfect life, whatever that looks like, is always bigger than your own unit.
Yes.
It's about kids for us is about, we don't have them yet, but creating a legacy of world changers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our kids will come into that environment. We will not adapt our environment to our kids. It's the same thing. You shouldn't be adapting yourself to your spouse. You should be conforming to them. so that you can have this happy, nice marriage. You guys should be conforming to his image and running after him together, looking in the same direction, running in the same direction.
I would say this. I think oftentimes when we talk about this stuff, people are like, well, how did you find that out about each other? I'm saying you literally just tell them. We were so straightforwardly telling each other all sorts of things and asking each other really hard questions. Well, are you willing to do this? And then when it came to holiness, that was really important to both of us in dating and having proper boundaries, knowing what each other struggled with. I straight up asked him, I think a month into knowing you, like, is porn a problem? Which it wasn't. Those things.
On that note, if your dude or someone that you're potentially interested in, if he struggles with that, straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
That's like a no-go zone. He needs to be free. He needs to at least 6 months to a year walking in freedom so that you know that his eyes are treasuring you more than anything else, more than anyone else.
It's just too much emotional baggage for a woman to carry. And no matter how tough you are and say you don't care, there is an aspect of betrayal in it. And there is, for the man, a way they're looking at women that is like an object and not a human.
Yes.
And so you don't want that mindset in your relationship because it does bleed into how you treat each other. And you also don't want to be their mom helping them walk out of that. That's why you need other people to do it. But back to what I was saying, agreement over boundaries and holiness was important to us.
Yes.
I think people are always asking, like, what? Like, we didn't save our first kiss till marriage, or like, we weren't that way.
I don't want to give like too many rules.
Right.
Because people are asking, what can I do and not do? And that's like the low form of the question. How close can I get to the line? Bad question. The better question is, how far away can I get from the line? Chloe and I kissed before we got engaged. I think that's fine. We hugged.
I think it's good.
I think it's good. I think it's healthy. If you show up on your wedding day and you haven't kissed yet, I am not going to be there because I don't want to see something crazy take place when the guy says, you may kiss the bride, and just, I'm not there for the awkward homeschool moment, for sure.
For sure.
But we also had boundaries that we weren't going to cross.
Yeah.
And, I think anything beyond kissing that's leading you into physical touch of body parts that are no-go zones and zones for marriage. That's probably your line if I were going to put a line anywhere. I think
dating is the one time with your future spouse that you will be only about friendship and cultivating deep friendship.
Yes.
And so I think as a woman, you're in the driver's seat. So what you say goes. You should know that. You have all the freedom to set the boundaries. The man should not be dictating that. Although they should be in agreement with it.
He should be holding what you...
Yes.
And if you feel like crossing a boundary, you should be with a guy that goes, no, I'm not going in that boundary. I'm not going past that.
Yeah. If a man starts taking advantage of you and crossing your boundaries, that is like the first indicator that they will not lead you respectfully in marriage.
Yes.
If they can't do the simple bare minimum of just not touching you, then how can they lead you in your calling and stuff? But there's room for mistakes. There's room for growing. There's room for all that stuff. And just keep going and coming back to, hey, we're walking in holiness. Let's get on it. In closing, I know a majority of you are single. A lot of you are asking how to be satisfied in the waiting, or what do you do in the waiting? And there is a reality to the body of Christ being more women than there are men.
61% women, 39% men.
I want everybody to just walk away with like hope and faith for what God has for them. Well, what would you say?
Chloe and I get to interact with a lot of young men, a lot of young ladies, and there's so many godly people out there. I would encourage you, if you're single and you want to be married and you're looking for someone, first and foremost, release that desire and make sure that Jesus is truly your desire, not marrying someone. And that, I think that has to be the start, and that might take some time to really relinquish that. But if you've done that, and you're in a good place where you're not idolizing marriage, you're not idolizing someone, then make sure you're in a community where there's godly men. So many people are like, where are the godly men? Well, they're not where you are, and so you got to go be in an environment where they are, because probably not coming to you.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No.
I think if you're in a place there, it's a man drought, you should go to a summer ministry school. You should go visit somewhere. You should, Upwards dating app with some oversight, so you don't meet a creeper. Like, not be afraid if it's a desire of your heart and ask the Lord, is there anywhere that you need to lead me?
Mm-hmm. This doesn't mean leaving your church or leaving your ministry or whatever, but you can just add and go.
And tell godly mentors in your life, like, hey, like, set me up, man. Like, I'm looking for a man. I just don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
I think it actually can bring you faith and encouragement at times.
Yes, have hope.
And ultimately believe that God has written your story.
Yes.
I could have never planned to have met Derek Mack. But what I could do was, when I was talking to a guy and I felt such a lack of peace, was to go, this is not God, and make myself available for the right guy.
I love you.
I love you too.
I'm the honest Christian man. Not really. She's the honest Christian lady.
We close by praying for people.
Lord, we pray for godly marriages and that you'd bring them together, for all the ladies watching this and the guy that might be watching this. Lord, that you'd bring them the proper spouse, the person that you've designed to bring them into a team partnership of deep love and deep joy together, creating a legacy with kids and impacting the world. Lord, we ask for it in Jesus' name.
Wait, lastly, before we're ending now, but we prayed before this, and I just felt from the Lord to encourage anybody that feels discouraged, like you didn't have a great picture of marriage growing up and you're worried about how that's going to affect you. I just felt like God wanted to encourage people out there that struggle with that you are going to be okay and you're starting a new legacy. Yeah. Your parents' story isn't your story, and God has wired you perfectly for your spouse. And like Derek's saying, you get to start a new legacy, new generational line, and you need to cut off any unbelief that that's not for you, or you're going to start your relationship at a deficit. With Jesus, we are in a positive extra. Okay, bye guys. Thanks for watching.
Peace.
Leave a comment and I will see you all soon. Bye.